Broadway Interludes presented by Art Lab. I'm your host, Megan Chocles, and today I'm joined by Aurelia Williams. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited because you've done Broadway, off-Broadway, national tours, and Art Lab.
Yes!
So let's talk about it!
Let's talk about it.
You were in First Date.
I was.
During the pandemic.
I was.
What was that like?
Well, for one, it was very exciting to be one of the very few equity actors working during that time because the pandemic, it really changed our industry. It shut us down, and a lot of times people were just sort of sitting and baking bread.
So much bread.
So much bread. And it was really exciting to be working during that time, to be actively working, creating, making music, making a musical. It was thrilling, honestly.
I mean, the pandemic, everyone has their stories. Like, I'm so jealous that, you were creating a wonderful show, and, everyone has a story, though, so I have to ask, what was your moment during the pandemic that's always a great party story?
A great party story? Well, do you want to hear about, like, something to do with doing First Date, or just a great pandemic party story?
If you have both, I'll take both.
Okay. Well, doing First Date was different from the normal theater experience because we were our set. We weren't the set designers, but we were the crew. We were our own crew. So we had green screens that we taped up and put up, and they were all over I had one room in the house that the rest of my family was not allowed to go into because when I had it set up just right, I'm like, no one touch anything. Because if it was a little off or a little out of frame, it would make it so that we had to reshoot. And but we all had our own set pieces and our own props in our house, and we all set them up to look identical to one another. And so it just was very interesting doing all of these things yourself and then performing too.
Right.
But I did it made me appreciate my crew all the more.
Yeah.
It truly did. But I had one day where I had everything set up just right, and the ceiling fan, you had all of the superfluous sounds in the room you had to be aware of and be careful of. So I generally did not have my ceiling fan on during the filming or the recording. But while I was setting up, I was getting hot. I turned the ceiling fan on.
Oh, no.
And it blew the light down. I had one of those, the lights that has the umbrella thing on it? Yeah. I don't know what those are called, but I had one of those up, and the ceiling fan, the umbrella caught the air from the ceiling fan, which knocked into my ring light, which knocked into the green screen, which came down, and then it knocked onto the table, and it knocked over my props that had cranberry juice in it, which was supposed to be our red wine. And it all happened in slow motion behind me. So I didn't see, I just saw Meg's face because she was directing, and she saw from behind what was happening, and she's saying, oh no, Aurelia, oh no. And I was like, what's going on? And then I saw the wine splash in front of me, and I was like, oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no. So that was a day. That was the day that I was like, God bless our crew who does this so well.
Shout out to the crew.
Shout out to our support teams, man. But overall it was thrilling to be able to do that.
Imagine.
It really was. But during the pandemic, another thing that you had to be careful about as far as these noises is we had guinea pigs.
Oh, okay.
And they can be very squeaky.
Right.
And so my son is the one who was the the caretaker
Okay.
of the piggies.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people had their pandemic pets, which
Right.
I understood was a thing. And so during that time, I thought, this will be a good way for him to have some company, because my son, he's 11 years old. He was, I guess he was in the 3rd grade when everything started.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he wasn't having as much interaction with his classmates and things like that. So I thought maybe some guinea pigs, that would be great. So we went to Petco.
Okay.
And we got 2 male guinea pigs. And, they were there. It was Spot and Peter.
Spot and Peter.
Spot and Peter were our new roommates, our new housemates. And one day I hear my son say, Mommy, there's a baby in my guinea pig cage. And I said, a mouse must have gotten in the cage, because I live in Connecticut, so the forest is my backyard. So
right.
Every now and again, the nature comes into my home, and so I was like, oh no. So that's what I figured, and I go upstairs, and there is in fact a little baby guinea pig in the corner, and so it's like, who's the mama?
Yeah, like, which one of?
And then it was apparent very quickly that Spot was the mama.
Right.
And so we called Petco and said, hey, you sold us 2 males. One just had a baby. What should we do? And so she says, well, you got to take the daddy out, because the daddy guinea pig can get aggressive with the baby.
Oh.
Yeah. So we said, okay. So I had to get another cage. We had to separate the daddy guinea pig from the baby. And she said, okay, but you got to look and find out if the baby is a male or female, because if it's a male, he can impregnate the mom if they're if he's in there with the mom too long. But you can't separate the baby and the mom while the baby's nursing. So
what a twisted little game you had to play.
I mean, yeah. So we did, in fact, have a little boy. She had a little male guinea pig.
Okay.
And he was nursing. And so they say usually by 3 weeks they need to be separated. But before then you can't separate them because he needs the milk. So at about 2 weeks, the baby starts humping the mom.
Oh.
And we were like, we called Petco. So the baby's humping the mom. Should we separate the baby? And so the lady at the Petco, she's like, well, is he still nursing? And I said, yes. So you can't separate the baby until the baby's on solid food. So we started really working to get the baby on solid food, but he's humping the mom like all the time. And it's ruining their relationship.
I'd imagine.
So we saw that she became less and less interested in mothering.
Right.
Because as soon as he finished nursing, he would want to hump. So at 3 weeks to the date, we separated the baby from the mom. And a few weeks later, my son says, does Spot look like she's getting fat?
No.
And I was like, no, maybe she's just been hungry. And so he pulls her out and she waddled across the floor. She literally.
I'm here for a carrot.
Yeah, she could not move that fast. And I was like, oh no. So sure enough, Spot was pregnant again from her baby.
Mother of 2.
Yeah. Well, then she gave birth to 3 more guinea pigs. 2 females and 1 male. Now at this point I was like, we're not doing this again. So now we're up to 6 guinea pigs. We have 6 guinea pigs.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So we had 6 guinea pigs. So at this point now my son is overwhelmed.
I'd imagine.
With guinea pig care, and the cages are just not getting cleaned the way they need to be cleaned. So we wound up rehoming 2 of the males. The 2 males that we had, we rehomed them.
Sure.
And but then he found that having the other, it just wound up being too much.
It wasn't working.
It was just too much. So little by little, we rehomed all of the guinea pigs. So at this point now, we are post-pandemic, and we are living in a post-guinea pig environment in my home.
Ooh.
So
that might take the top prize for pandemic stories. Like, you know how everyone adopted a hobby? Like,
right.
Oh, I baked sourdough for 3 weeks.
Right.
Like, oh, I got into knitting.
Yes.
Like, oh, we
became a guinea pig farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So back to theater.
Yeah,
Woo,
I mean, it's very dramatic.
Yes.
I would have never thought that there was so much drama.
It's very, what's the Greek classic about the mother?
Medea?
Not Medea. What is that? Room help, we can edit this out. The Greek show where he has the vision that you're gonna get with your mom. He's like, no, I'm not. Oedipus.
Yes. I thought it was more like the royal family. I've been watching Game of Thrones.
I was gonna say Game of Thrones.
Yes, I've been watching House of Dragons. It's very medieval.
You're just watching. Like, I know what you guys are up to.
Like, that is your grandpa, uncle, brother. Because Spot and Peter were also siblings.
Oh, Spot and Peter. Spot and Peter. No. Okay.
Very royal family.
Very royal family.
Yeah.
Wow.
I started watching Game of Thrones way after the guinea pig experience, and I actually thought, like, with the first, I don't know, did you watch Game of Thrones? Yeah, I was just like, oh, that's just like Spot and Peter.
Just like, this storyline is familiar.
I've seen this. Yes.
Okay, woo! All right. So now that we're warmed up, speaking of your roles that you've played,
yes.
How do you go about approaching those? Do you have any certain techniques that you use? Mm-hmm. Do you have any pre-show rituals that you like to do? Please share.
Well, approaching the roles, that comes at a different time because that's usually during rehearsal.
Right.
And before rehearsal, sort of thinking about what their life is outside of this moment in time that we're telling. Sometimes I like to start there.
Okay.
I like to come up with backstories and reasons why this person is like this. For instance, the last show that I just finished was Anne of Green. The show is called Anne of Green Gables.
Right.
At the Goodspeed Opera House, which was so fun. And I played Rachel Lynde, which is she's a nosy neighbor she's a little bit of a negative personality. Okay. Yes. And so I had a good time sort of coming up with some of her backstory, which, I mean, there's a whole book series that gives backstory, but, I still had my own sort of rationale that I like to come up with. But there's a lot of comedy in that particular role. So I definitely did find my process very unscientific.
Okay.
But when I would have the latitude to kind of make up bits or come up with things that she was doing in her world, if it made me laugh, then I figured, we're going to keep that. And anything that fully tickled me, things that I'm doing sometimes by myself. But if I feel a good tickle in there, I was like, oh yeah, that's gonna stay. I mean, provided the director is okay with it. But if it makes me giggle, then I'll try to keep it.
Yeah, it's a good way to see it.
Yeah.
Any pre-show rituals?
Pre-show rituals, yes. I am allergic to dust, which
interesting. That's very unfortunate.
It's unavoidable in theater.
Yeah.
So one of my pre-show rituals is to use the saline solution to clear out my sinuses and all the, yuck in the throat.
Right.
I like to warm up. I usually need to eat something. That's, believe it or not, it's if I'm not well fed, I am of very little use to anyone. But other than that, I was saying to one of my dressing room mates in Anna Green Gables, a lot of times I get to the theater an hour and a half early because I like to lollygag.
Oh, right.
I like to wander around and say hi and chat. And that I feel could be part of a pre-show ritual.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
to
just checking
lollygag and see what's going on, and and then rush at the 15-minute call.
Yeah, and you're like, oh,
I guess I should get my eyelashes
I have
on.
to do everything.
Yeah, maybe not the best pre-show ritual, but
Right.
that is what happens.
Now, going back to first date, do you think that you had a pre-show ritual when it came to logging into Zoom or to film?
That's a good question. I still found myself doing some of the same things before we would log in, which would be to warm up, to rinse out, to make sure I was fed.
Yeah.
At the time, my son was doing the distance learning with school. And so he was home. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times I was checking in with him and seeing if he needed anything or just chatting about what his day was.
Yeah.
So there were some, very real parallels to just what happens in the theater on a regular basis.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Now, to dive deeper into your past, how did your theatrical journey begin?
That's a good question. Because it didn't begin in like the typical way where someone sees a show and they're like, this is what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
The first Broadway show that I saw was Annie.
Oh.
And that definitely started a love of Annie.
Right.
And being dramatic at home in my window.
Amazing.
And, I definitely had a full production happening in my room with the door closed. But it didn't dawn on me to want to become a performer at that time. It really came as a result of a friend of mine when I was in college. Actually, I was in grad school at the time. I went to school to be an elementary teacher.
Wow.
Yeah. I went to Rutgers to be an elementary school teacher.
Yeah.
And while I was there, she saw that there was an audition for this new show called Rent.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm dating myself, but there was a new show called Rent, and they were interested in seeing people who may not be your typical musical theater people. So I wrote them a letter. I had no idea what a headshot and a resume were. I wrote them a letter, and I sent them a collage of pictures of me.
That's adorable.
And I said, I would love to be in your show. I love to sing. And they called me in. And I started auditioning for it, in New York. And since I was making the drive to come out to New York, they had me kept calling me back. I never got hired, which was actually probably a good thing because I had no training. I didn't know what I was doing. But because I was coming into the city, I started trying to find out how to find other jobs.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if I'm using the gas, I might as well. And so I found a magazine called Backstage. Oh. The actual hard copy.
We're all subscribed.
Yes, And so I started looking to see what kinds of jobs were out there. And I started going to the audition, just showing up. And I started to look around. Oh, everybody has these giant pictures of their face. I need to get one of those. And I saw that people had these big binders of music. And I need to get one of those too.
Yeah.
And then I realized they shouldn't just be songs that you've heard and liked. There should be songs you know how to sing. So then I had to take some pages out and put in songs that I actually knew how to sing. And I just started looking at other people, seeing what they did, and started to figure it out. And,
wow.
Yeah, and then I started actually getting hired.
Come on, Bookie.
Yeah, and my first job was through TheaterWorks USA, which I consider that to be my theater school. Because I didn't know that working as an actor didn't come along with also driving a van and doing laundry.
Yes.
So that was part of that. I was so excited that they were paying me to sing and dance and have fun and see the entire country. We were on tour for almost a year.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I really learned what musical theater was about and the rehearsal process. And I learned all of that through TheaterWorks USA.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And I learned about the union.
Oh.
I had no idea what equity was. I grew up my parents have a real estate office. The only thing I knew about equity was that that's something you build with home ownership.
Yeah. Like, oh yeah, sure, I know what that is.
Do you want to build your equity? And if you need to borrow against your equity, that's what I knew. And I learned, I joined the union with that first job, which was fantastic. I didn't know that was such a privilege, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really my learning, my education right there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Now, out of all of the roles that you have played, do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I think this last one that I played it has become a favorite.
Oh, amazing.
Rachel Lynde in
Rachel
Anna Green Gables. She just was so fun. But not just because she was funny and fun to do. She had so much heart. And so that's my favorite kind of role. Like if there are dream roles out there, generally I don't know what the role is that's already happened.
Right.
I just know the type of role that is my dream to do.
Yeah.
And that tends to be the kind that is funny, has a heart of gold somewhere. Somewhere in there. She's got this love, a palpable love. But also can handle the weightiness of life.
Yeah.
And bring that forward as well. You know, and yeah, that's my favorite type of thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that leads me to our final question. Would you please sing for us?
Of course. I'd be happy to.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And
truly.
Thank you for watching. This has been Broadway Interludes presented by Art Lab. See you next time. Bye.